Good morning. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word. I'm Barry Bryson, and we're continuing our study of the book of Habakkuk. We said yesterday that in 586 BC, the Babylonians carried away the southern kingdom into captivity and destroyed the city of Jerusalem. And that the book of Habakkuk is about that event and puts it into perspective ahead of time. It's very much like Jeremiah 29. Well, Jeremiah period, but it particularly coincides with Jeremiah 29 in that it understands that it's an act of God's salvation, that this terrible event is about to happen. Um, and so they were taken away into captivity, and they were allowed to come back in 539 BC after the decree of Cyrus. Cyrus, one of the great figures in all of history, he didn't just release the Jews from their captivity, but all the peoples that the Babylonians had taken captive. He released them to go back to their traditional homelands and gave them their riches back too. One of the great figures in all history. You might think to yourself that you're not going to get to 70 years of captivity from 586 to 539. That's less than 40 years of captivity. But you get exactly 70 years if you go back to 611, when Jerusalem and Judea become a vassal state of Babylon. So, anyway, um, that's like when folks try to argue that Jesus had to be in the grave 72 hours, not just across 3 days. Um, God's timing is right, and things happen exactly as He says, whether if it's our mathematics or not. So that's all I'll say about that. Um, I want to talk about the book. It is not like anything else in all of Scripture. It's just a dialogue between the prophet and God, where the prophet asks two questions. The first question is, how long, O Lord, are you going to let the people be this sinful and do nothing about it? And the Lord is going to answer him. I am going to do something about it. I'm going to send the Babylonians to haul you people into captivity. And then his second question is, how can you do that? They're worse than we are. And the Lord's answer is, the Lord is in his holy temple, that all the earth keeps silence before him. I do what I do because I'm God and you're not. And then in chapter 3, we get his prayer to remember mercy in your judgment. And then we get this long poem of praise to God, whose power fills all the universe, and praise to him as an avenging God. And then we get this statement of faith that is really unparalleled, unequaled anywhere in Scripture. It really kind of reminds you of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego before the fiery furnace, um, and but even more so, this statement of faith that the fig tree, doesn't produce, or there's no grape on the vine, you know, even though I'm quaking in my boots at the oncoming Babylonians, I will I will believe in God. He's going to make my feet like the mountain goats on the mountains. And so that's the book. As I said earlier, we don't study this book so much, but we do know the quotes, the key quotes. We do know the Lord is in his holy temple, that all the earth keeps silent before him. 2:20. We know the just or the righteous shall live by faith. Chapter 2, verse 4, which is quoted multiple times in the New Testament. Um, we know the phrase "hinds feet on high places." Um, we probably are something aware of, though the fig tree doesn't blossom and there be no fruit on the vines, that longer passage. And then 3 verse 13, God goes forth for the salvation of his people. Um, those are all there, and those we know, snippets of Habakkuk, but Habakkuk is as deep and questioning as Psalm 119, as the book of Job, as i- the book of Colossians in its assertion of God's omnipresence. It just it's everything, and it's unique and it's gorgeous to read, and it's honest, and it's about the way God listens to us and takes us seriously. and answers us, not in ways we would expect, not in ways we would choose ourselves. But it's also a book about a man understanding quite readily that he's not God and that God is God, and that his faith is not going to be shaken by the hardship to come. Okay, we're going to pick up with the text next time, chapter 1, verse 1. Thank you for joining me for another 5 good minutes with the Word.